So guys, the United Kingdom has finally decided to punish all those that perpetrated evil during this election. People like MC Oluomo.
British High Commission on Wednesday announced that it is collating relevant information about some Nigerians who engaged in anti-democratic actions during the elections with a view to taking action against the individuals. The commission also stated that it was concerned by the use of inflammatory ethno-religious language by some political figures and called on all leaders to distance themselves from the use of such inflammatory language.
Simply collecting the names. We know them. We know them. We are not just going to generate a fake list. Your station was showing, pictures of events happening in all over the places. We know the governors who misbehaved. We know police commissioners who misbehaved. We know INEC, what do they call them? Is it electoral? The professors who were misbehaving.
We all know how these people came out and threatened the people, telling them that they shouldn't even come out to vote. We all know people, even governors, that participated in so many malpractices. And I tell you, the UK government has decided to punish them in different ways. Also, in case you don't know, Festus Kayamo has written to the DSS to arrest Mr. Peter Obi for not accepting Tinubu as the president-elect. Honestly, Nigeria is a drama scene. Don't forget, it is these politicians that told Mr. Peter Obi that if he's not happy with the outcome of the election, he should go to court. And now Mr. Peter Obi has gone to court. They are asking the DSS to arrest him and his running mate.
Then in this case as well, it's interesting that the APC, where the loudest go to court, had the loudest voice in this. And now that Mr. Peter Obi, rather than calling for a revolution or asking people to go to the streets, is seeking redress in court as it's allowed by law, they are now court shaming him, if I put it that way. There was voter suppression. Please let there not be justice suppression. Let every man have his day in court if he feels aggrieved and can present evidence enough to convince the justices that he has a court to prove. So guys,
you can see that Nigeria is a drama scene. Nigeria is a drama scene. But my joy is that the Western world has now acknowledged that there was never a time an election happened in Nigeria, are now acknowledging that this election was rigged. And that is why they are taking this move to sanction all those who were involved. So guys, let me allow you watch this video in details. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you. Let me allow you watch this video.
The British High Commission on Wednesday announced that it is collating relevant information about some Nigerians who engaged in anti-democratic actions during the elections with a view to taking action against the individuals. The commission also stated that it was concerned by the use of inflammatory ethno-religious language by some political figures and called on all leaders to distance themselves from the use of such inflammatory language, as well as prevent those who speak on their behalf from doing so. On February 21st, Andrew Mitchell, the UK Minister of State for Development and Africa, announced that the UK is prepared to take action against those who engage or incite electoral violence and other anti-democratic behaviors. And the action could include preventing people from obtaining UK visas or imposing sanctions under their human rights sanction regime. Well, this is coming as Bayo Ononuga, media aide to President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, came under heavy criticism after posting a viral tweet warning Igbos never to interfere in Lagos politics. Well, on Wednesday, Ononuga posted another tweet claiming that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, is trying to treat Tinubu just as retired military head of state Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida did to MKO, whose presidential election victory got annulled 30 years ago. Well, let's take his tweet. Bayo wrote, Peter Obi of the Labour Party seeks the annulment of the election of President-elect Bola Tinubu, just like the military annulled MKO Abiola's election of June 12, 1993. Team Tinubu will certainly meet you in court. There's been a lot of reactions to this story. Dr. Abati, I'd like yours first before I take a reaction.
Well, I mean, it's not up to Mr. Bayo Ononuga, to determine what will happen in this particular case. The matter is already before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. And it is for the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to look at the prayers and the grounds of petition that have been presented before that court by the presidential candidate of the Labour Party and the Labour Party. And may Mr. Ononuga also be reminded that it's not just the Labour Party that has gone to court. 3 other political parties have gone to court. The People's Democratic Party, the Action Alliance, and the Allied People's Movement. All of them saying that there were not just irregularities in that election, but that also the candidate of the APC was not qualified, and that in any case the election the outcome was invalid because INEC did not even follow his own laws, in addition to allegations of irregularities. Now, because in our system, what we run, is an accusatorial system, the onus is on those parties that have gone to court to prove it. So it's not about Mr. Ononuga saying he wants to annul the election. Once the matter is before the court, I think everybody should allow, the matter due process to take its course. That's one point there. As for the, the British saying that they are compiling a list of persons who will be sanctioned, the position that is being expressed by the UK authorities is the same position expressed earlier by the US. And the US is also saying that, look, persons who may have sabotaged the 2023 electoral process in Nigeria will be denied their visas, and that, sanctions will come. The clear implication is that we live in a world where no country lives in isolation, where what you do is observed by other countries, where impunity in any part of the world can be sanctioned by other, members of the international community. In other words, the world is watching. The second thing, of course, the point not made by the UK, made by the US, is that Nigeria itself should ensure that electoral offenders are punished so that people can learn the appropriate lessons, so that, the reign of impunity will not become a cultural thing, in Nigeria's electoral process. The only caveat to add in all of this is that the UK authorities and the US authorities, yes, they send their observers to watch that election. Maybe it's also possible to even encourage Nigerians to create a channel for Nigerians to come and report the persons who were electoral offenders. Some of them are very well known, because it will be embarrassing to discover along the line that some critical offenders were overlooked, by the international community. If we sit here now, we can, in fact, quickly collate some names and say, US, don't give this person visa for life. We can say, UK, never allow this person to come to, to UK, any part of UK, to come and pollute the environment. Because these are the persons who have embarrassed Nigeria by promoting irregularities, by promoting conflict, and behaving like they don't even care.
All right, well, Ayo, before I come to you, I'll take a reaction regarding Bayo Ononuga's tweet. I mean, that tweet went viral. This is from Investigate, Prosecute, Confiscate. They wrote, the circumstances surrounding the elections of Bola Tinubu and Chief MKO Abiola are vastly different, and any comparison by Bayo Ononuga between the two is a misrepresentation of history. Chief MKO Abiola won the people's mandate in a free and fair contest, whereas Bola Tinubu's election was characterized by vote rigging, violence, fraud, and intimidation, making it the worst election in modern history. Bola Tinubu should know better, as he was on the side of the fence fighting against such malpractices in those days. To suggest we compare the two elections is misleading and potentially harmful, particularly if such a comparison is used to undermine the legitimacy of the fragile democratic process in Nigeria. Over to you, Ayo. All
right, first of all, let me just say that, to Doctor's point, people have actually signed petitions online identifying some specific people that the UK and the US shouldn't give visas to, so the people are speaking up. Now, with regards to this, I'm glad, since this is trending, I will quote a spotlight by Abby on Twitter, had actually gone to dig up an old video where Tunde Abiola was speaking to a guest on the show, and who other than to speak about her father's legacy than the daughter of the man in question. And she spoke about how, shall I say, the proliferation of the name and legacy of her dad, where people kept calling on him or using his name to push an agenda. As we see in this case with Mr. Bayo Ononuga, comparing what happened in 1993 to what's happened now. Many people have said that the only similarity between Chief M.K. Abiola and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the style in which they ran the election is that they ran on a Muslim ticket. In terms of other things that have trailed his campaign, his candidacy, the people, what they are seeking in court, very different. First of all, in 1993, there was no court process to seek an annulment. The order was made by the then military head of state, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. In this case, well, in terms of that, seeking redress, or the opposition party seeking redress, and they're the ones calling for an annulment. That's the point I was trying to make. Then in this case as well, it's interesting that the APC, where the loudest go to court, had the loudest voice in this. And now that Mr. Peter Obi, rather than calling for a revolution or asking people to go to the streets, is seeking redress in court as it's allowed by law, they are now court shaming him, if I put it that way. There was voter suppression. Please let there not be justice suppression. Let every man have his day in court if he feels aggrieved and can present evidence enough to convince the justices that he has a court to prove. APC and Mr. Bayo Ononuga, speaking on behalf of the APC, should please desist from trying to speak to people and skew the narrative or change the story and make it seem as if what Mr. Peter Obi is not within his legal rights as a Nigerian who wants to seek redress.
Absolutely, I like that point. Rufai.
Let me use Dr. Abbas's word. It's all a game. And this is the game of ethnic baiting. And we should be watchful. And please, I would like to call on everybody and all politicians. If we want peace, we must have it with justice, and we must stop the ethnic baiting. We all know when you mention June 12, what it skews towards. So it's a deliberate attempt to be able to rile a base up, saying that they should not take the mandate like they took the mandate of a certain group of people in June 12. And we should be careful. See, this person is a master media craftsman. He's been at this job for over 50, 60 years. He knows what he's doing. He knows the kind of message he's putting forward. And people should not fall for it. I have been able to establish, there's a huge difference between what happened in June 12. But this is ethnic baiting. And we shouldn't do this. See, if we want peace and the togetherness of this country, a lot of people have touted the court process. Let justice be done in court. After justice is done in court, then people can start looking at reconciliation. Because in the end, we still have to build our country, one way or the other. And all of this will be behind us. A couple of months from now, after court cases and everything, we'll still have to sit on the table. But we can only do that with justice. And we will remember the things people said before now.
The British High Commission in Nigeria says Minister of State for Development and Africa, Andrew Mitchell MP, is prepared to take action against those who engaged in or incited electoral violence during the just concluded general election. The High Commission, which said it deployed observers in 6 states, noted in part, and I quote, "Members of our observation mission personally observed violence and voter suppression in numerous voting locations. We witnessed and received credible reports from other observer missions and civil society organizations of vote buying and voter intimidation, the destruction and hijacking of election materials, and the general disruption of the process in numerous states, including Lagos, Enugu, and Rivers." Well, Ambassador Joe Keshi held several top diplomatic positions while in active service, including Nigeria's Consul General in Atlanta, Georgia. He joins us now to dissect this issue. A very warm welcome to this program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, the first thing that comes to mind is if we're hearing the international community have to make these, I don't want to call them threats, but, you know, having to issue these notices and advices to Nigeria, does that demonstrate Nigeria's unwillingness to tackle and take action against these alleged perpetrators? Because we're yet to see any real action being taken domestically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I've always maintained that if you refuse to obey your own rules and regulations, somebody or something else is going to force you to begin to do that. And this is a good example. You know, since 1999, we've always said that perpetrators of electoral malpractices will be dealt with. And if you remember this year, go on your program, your past videos, and look at how many state commissioners of police came out to warn in very strong terms how they will deal with anybody who violates the regulations. Who have they dealt with since the end of, you know? Of course, after the presidential election and nothing was done, nobody was arrested, and the desperation of governors in particular to win their states, they became emboldened and decided to do worse things that we've never seen happen during election in this country. And the consequences of this, of all what was done, is that we now have, you know, foreign countries intervening. The U.S. has made similar, you know, statements also, you know, to deal with those who perpetrated violence and everything the British High Commission has said. So that's the situation we find ourselves. And that begins to show you you know, how our leaders are bringing this country internationally to disrepute.
Thank you, Ambassador. Of course, we understand, you know, Nigeria is sovereign, and you know that...
But we're also a member of the global community.
I'm aware. But I'm saying, what further action would you like to see from the international community that might be, you know, that might be more than what they've already announced, but would still be within the framework of respecting Nigeria's sovereignty, that might get a more pleasing or a better reaction based on the outcome of the elections without violating sovereignty?
No, I don't think, no. They are not violating anybody's sovereignty if they decide that they are not going to open all their doors to people from your country. After all, UAR banned us, decided, why did they do that?
Let me just clear that up. I'm not saying that they are violating our sovereignty. I'm saying, but would you like to see further action by the international community that would still not be...
Of course, I'm sure. Look, if our governments, that's federal and state governments, if they refuse to obey the laws they have established, something else needs to happen to force them to begin to do that. And if the international community is going to do that for us, we just have to accept it. If they begin to ban, for example, because among those who violated the rules were state governors, police officers, INEC officers, and the rest. So if they begin to deal with these people, ban them from coming to their countries, and even go as far as extend the ban to their families, then people will begin to take these laws very seriously. And so next time a political leader comes to you and they say to you, go and start ringing bell at election polling units and say, look, if you are not voting for us, don't come near here. That guy would not take orders, knowing fully well that he could go to prison. But in the absence of law enforcement agencies doing the right thing in this country, somebody else has to do it for us, and that's exactly what they want to do.
And this has become a very popular modus operandi for some of these Western nations, the UK, the US, especially when dealing with African countries. Now, we've seen both economic and personalized targeted sanctions in countries like Mali.
It's not only African countries. After all, they've imposed sanctions on Ukraine, they've imposed sanctions on Myanmar, and some of the countries that have gone to the extreme end of violating human rights and not allowing their people to enjoy the fruits of democracy.
And I thank you for adding that to what I'm saying, because my question to you is, how much will this affect the legitimacy of the incoming government to the rest of the world?
You know, first of all, we have to wait a minute to see whether the incoming government will have legitimacy to start with. And until the courts decide this, it's very difficult to anybody to talk of legitimacy to start with. Because once it has gone to court, it becomes very clear that except the court makes a declaration, the question of the legitimacy doesn't arise yet. So that's one thing. And they're also very aware, I mean, they're very aware of this, so that they have to wait and see the outcome of the, the court process.
Okay, thank you. Now, one part of the excerpt of that statement, if you permit me to read, that was, the UK acknowledged that they saw the use of inflammatory ethno-religious language by some public and political figures. And an excerpt reads, "We call on leaders not just to distance themselves from this kind of language, but to prevent those who speak on their behalf from doing so in this way." Now, in the event that the president-elect remains the president, and the governor-elect, for instance, Lagos State, remains the governor, do you think this is an advice that they would heed to?
Look, it's possibly for the future, because for now it's too late, the harm has been done. And bear in mind that, at least for the Lagos State governor, he has 4 more years to go. We have already been told by Ononuga that nobody should try, quote and unquote, this nonsense in 2027. Yeah. What does that tell you? Frankly, we are going to do the same thing in 2027 if you dare try to engage us in Lagos. And so you can also expand the conversation. The president-elect was in this country when the mayhem committed in Lagos took place. He never said a word. And after the election and his people won clearly, he preached for healing. What sorts of healing? The healing of the dead? What do you say to those whose marketplaces were burnt? What do you say to families who now have to bury their loved ones? All because of election. Why didn't you speak? Why didn't you speak before or during the whole exercise to calm people down? That would have made a difference. And I'm sure people would have come out to praise him, to say, yeah, this is the kind of leader. Step in as quickly as you can, calm down the situation, and not just wait after you begin to talk of healing. Healing for who? That's the question. So I'm not too sure that those who are aggrieved will take him seriously. And that raises further the question, not just of legitimacy, but the kind of presidency we should be looking forward to. So the bottom line for me is, look, as long as this country refuses to play by its own rules, obey simple instructions, punish people who've committed crimes, the international community is going to continue to come in and interfere in our own affairs. And that's the truth. It's not that way. We're a member of the global community. And let me use the word they use in the banking sector. Nigeria is systematically an important country. And nobody is going to allow this country to go down because of the huge impact it would have, not just within the continent itself, but around the world. So all these things they are trying to do, or the things they are saying, is again part of that effort to help us to maintain peace and stability in this country. But if our leaders want to go the other way, let me make a prediction I've been saying to friends. If we do not address the consequences and the outcome of this election and the tribal division that we have created and the way people are feeling from outside, I can make a prediction, and in 20 years' time, there'll be no Nigeria. Take it or leave it. That's the honest truth. I got into Lagos on Monday, and virtually people are spoken to here and there. I can't believe some of the things I'm hearing. I've never heard it before about this country. Even those who are very successful, who I'm not even sure they voted. Everybody is questioning what are they doing in this country. So you can imagine, a friend of mine actually said to me, he used to be one of the most optimistic about this country. And I said, over the years, this country seems determined to break our wheels. So who is going to help us? Today you say things were bad, you say to us, manage. Oh, we do better, and it won't happen again. It happens the second time. Is it when all of us become victims that we become awake to the reality? So I make that prediction that if we do not address the outcome of this in a way that we are able to, bring everybody together and really engage in genuine healing, there will be no Nigeria in 20 years' time. And you can put it on record that I said it here on your station.
Well, now, in light of this, how effective are these sanctions if they are to go through with them? And I say that with reference to former President Robert Mugabe, who once said, well, if you won't let me come to the West, then I'll look east. It seems that the people who engage in these activities always find a way to find a place where their bread will be buttered. So will these sanctions
You are right, but you see, if you look at it critically, they don't have as much knowledge or interest with the East as they have with the West. Most Nigerians look at the destination of the flow of migration is to the West. The few that goes out to the East, they probably want to go and study. Even our top businessmen, everybody deals with the West rather than with the East. And with the Russian-Ukraine war, that's just almost a no-go area for most people. So is the West. And I think if it's properly structured, and we can actually help them, to deal with the people we are talking about by simply collecting the names. We know them. We know them. We are not just going to generate a fake list. Your station was showing, pictures of events happening in all over the places. We know the governors who misbehaved. We know police commissioners who misbehave. We know INEC, what do they call them? Is it electoral? The professors who were misbehaving. We know them. So when you begin to deal with this, group, look, until we understand that there are consequences and you must pay the price in this country. And guess what? It is so easy to do. So easy to do. Punish one person, punish the second person, punish the third person, as we were brought up. You just find out that everybody will behave. By the time you are leaving home, the day you take a job with INEC, your mom will say to you, please, don't do this, so I don't want my child to go to prison. Why? Because others have gone to prison. It's as simple as that. It's just that we have refused. And the worst part of it is that our institutions are complicit in the whole process. And that's the tragedy. So who are you going to rush to? The police are complicit. The military are complicit. So who else? INEC, the same story. So we are now left with the judiciary. And if the judiciary decides otherwise, that's it.
Well, Ambassador, thank you for, your insight. Now, if things change in terms of, the governments in various levels emerging as a result of litigation, whereby we understand, of course, that some candidates are taking them up their matter in court. If a new president-elect emerges or a new governor-elect on various levels, how do we ensure that we don't see a case or cases of post-election violence?
No, take a look at what happened in Abia, yesterday. I only saw it this morning again on your program because I wasn't for most of yesterday. The same thing would happen in this country. And that automatically, sets the pace. Not only does it give the government the legitimate, even if the court decides that yes, the status quo should remain and so on, Nigerians will, and that's by the way, I think it was on your station again, I did say that, look, in order for us to have peace and understanding, cameras should be allowed into the courtroom for this case, so that as the case is going on, Nigerians wherever they are, actually hearing the evidence for themselves. So whatever decision the distinguished or honorable judges do make, they will accept it that, yes, we heard the evidence and this was what happened, this is not what happened, and the rest of it. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, that will help the process because people will accept the result of the Supreme Court. They might not be happy, but as long as this is the last bus stop, nowhere else to go, they have nothing else to do. Already, there's like something like a piece of the graveyard today. But if a judgment is given and people, whether it's right or wrong, depending on how it goes, people will accept it. But the leaders, and I think that's where we need to focus on really, the incoming leaders must just do more than say, oh, we want to build you roads, we want to build schools. No. We need to begin to define the essence of what makes you a Nigerian and what are your entitlements as Nigerians. You cannot live in a place, look, I started my primary school here in Lagos before we moved to Ibadan, before we finally moved to Abuja, when the Minister of Foreign Affairs moved. So for me, even though I'm from Delta, Lagos, Ibadan, now Abuja has been my life. And one day you tell me that I don't belong to anywhere. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Those who live in Lagos, those who live in Port Harcourt are not indigenous. Those who live in Kano are not indigenous. But they've been paying tax. In centuries past, the payment of tax is your entitlement to vote. Your payment of tax is your entitlement to nationality. So you can't come in the 21st century and say, no, whether you've lived 20, 30 years in Lagos, you are not entitled to anything. And I hear people boasting that, oh, we gave them everything. For goodness sake, what did you give anybody? Whether in Lagos, Kano, or Port Harcourt, they pay taxes. And that entitles them to whatever the government gives to anybody in the state. So these are the kind of conversations our new leaders should bring on board for people to understand. It is time we define the essence of being a Nigerian. So if you live in Lagos, you live in Port Harcourt, you live in Enugu, you live in Jos. Again, for example, I was born in Jos. Just to tell you how my parents moved around in those days. And I'm married to a Lagosian. So what do you want? So you now say to me that my children don't have a right to Lagos. Our house is here in Lagos. So what do we do? We're not talking of 2, 3, 4 years. We're talking of more than 50 years.
Now, Ambassador Keshi, in light of this, I find it interesting that one of the chief electoral observers was former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, who had a similar impasse in his country, in both of his elections, actually. But one of the cures, one of the prescriptions that seemed to work for his tenure in Kenya was, of course, granting his chief, his biggest opponent, Raila Odinga, a political handshake and in a sort of government of national unity. And of course, we've seen those things transpiring across the world, especially across Africa. But my question to you is, given all of this, it seems, yes, there have been invitations to say several of the declared winners have said, oh, come and join my government. Let's work together. Let's work together.
No. You see, you can't say, come and join my government, and you have not actually recognized the pains and the way they feel.
So what does
look at someone like Ononuga, what he's tweeting. The president-elect allowed mayhem to happen in Lagos and only spoke after his party has won. Come on, we must face it. Look, at the end of the day, this is about justice. It's not about Atiku, Peter Obi, or even Tinubu himself. It's about justice. The right of Nigerians to decide who rules them. It's about justice. It's about fairness. It's about equity. No, but look, you can debate. The Ononugas of this world can create any ethnic division they want. But this is about justice. Justice.
Yeah.
Do Pure and simple, nothing else.
Ambassador Keshi, you know, we could listen to you for hours on end. Your wealth of experience in this sector absolutely shines through. Unfortunately, we're out of time today, but this has been insightful and a fantastic exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
so,
I
guys,
hope
you have
that,
seen it for yourself that
it works.
APC is never a party to trust. They are never a party to rely on. They are never a party to work with. They are full of lies. They are full of deceit. Even this robbery that happened in a broad daylight, people are still claiming that they won. How did you win when we've seen figures that were changed? We saw results sheets that were tipexed. We saw all the intimidation, the threats. You know, we saw so many things that qualified this election to be cancelled, and the APC keep claiming that they won this election. APC, you didn't win this election. You stole the people's mandates, and that is why the people are asking for their mandate to be returned. So guys, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you. We all know that INEC later uploaded results to its IREV. But comparing those results with what was declared, you will see that there are so many differences in the figures. So it is obvious that this election was marred by so many irregularities, and INEC decided to ignore them. You know, INEC went ahead to declare Bola Ahmed Tinubu the winner of this election, despite, you know, the outcry that was out there, considering all the intimidations, you know, all the ballot snatching, the tipexing of the results sheet. So many figures were changed. We were told that results will be uploaded from the polling unit so that there won't be any alteration, you know, but INEC failed to that responsibility, and up to today INEC has not come out to apologize to the Nigerian people. So guys, Mr. Peter Obi has filed a lawsuit against Bola Ahmed Tinubu and INEC, and in this video you'll be seeing a breakdown of the content of that petition, and also you'll be seeing how INEC ended up giving us figures that are different from what is on the INEC portal. So guys, you can see for yourself that INEC has not done a good job when it comes to, you know, they just concluded election, both that of the presidential and that of the governorship election. And that is why Mr. Peter Obi is asking the court to mandate INEC to cancel this election, because we can't take this for an election. Lest we become a laughing stock to the rest of the countries of the world. Nigerians, we can't take this election. We can't accept it. Mr. Peter Obi has forwarded his petition to the court, asking the court to cancel this election on so many grounds. And you can agree with him, you know, that Mr. Peter Obi is on the right path, considering all that transpired, considering the personality of Mr. Tinubu, considering the process of this election, and considering the results that were announced. The results are different from what we have on the INEC portal. I mean, what was announced are different from what we have on the INEC website, and on that ground, Mr. Peter Obi is asking INEC to cancel this election and let Nigeria call for a fresh election. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.